It's going? It is going, yes. Okay,
Yeah.
it's going. Great. Okay. Hi, welcome to the first episode of Searching the Mind with Psychosis Researchers. I'm Carolyn, and I'm here with my buddy, Dr. Aaron Brinen. Aaron, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm Dr. Aaron Brinen. I'm an assistant professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. I'm also a psychologist, and I co-created recovery-oriented cognitive therapy. And so I'm just excited to, you know, join Carolyn and have a good talk.
Yeah. For anyone who's been following the channel for a while, you might remember that I did a book review of Aaron's book, Living Well with Psychosis, which was such a joy to read. And I would recommend it to anyone, whether they've been through psychosis, know someone going through psychosis, or just want to learn about the condition themselves. Aaron's also you wrote another book before this, right? And you're working
Mhm.
on one now too.
Yeah, yeah,
You are
yeah.
a prolific author.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So it's been, I think I've recently found writing a lot more fun. I've got amazing editors at Guilford, and they just really helped me kind of find my voice and supported me in sounding the way that I sound. So it was a really exciting process. So now I'm enjoying writing a lot more now than I think I used to. So
Yeah, I've been writing a little bit myself because I do NaNoWriMo. Do you know? I've told you about NaNoWriMo, the
you
National
have,
Novel Writing Month. Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I used to love it, and it turns out that it doesn't exist anymore.
I know, I
So
heard.
I was so bummed. Like my coworker and I were really looking forward to it together, and we were gonna like be like team members or something, like encourage each other all throughout November. And then on November 2nd, he and I showed up to work like, oh no, did you hear? So
Oh,
I'm just chipping away,
yeah.
but it was cool like getting to like get to read the rough draft and then have the finished copy in my hands and like see that like play out, like how the process of a book is made. That must have, how long did that take?
Living well with psychosis. Yeah, so it was definitely a weird experience because the moment I got the contract, I just became really obsessive. So they think it might be the fastest book that's been written for Guilford. So I wrote it in
Wow.
231 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I didn't from the moment I started, I never put down. I was always like walking with my laptop, or I would read writing it on my phone, and then I would open it up on my laptop. So it really was exciting, and the people who helped me support me through it were wonderful. So my wife and an individual that I serve. They each always would. I would write the chapter. I would I would close it. I was very excited about that. I would close it down, I would open it up, I would edit it from the beginning to the end, and then I would send it to my wife, and I would print out a copy for an individual that I serve. And then I had these basic questions that I would ask. Right, first of all, does it make any sense? Um, which I thought was important starting spot. Did it seem like it was helpful? Could you use it? Was there anything that was offensive in it that felt like, off-putting? And they were both brutally honest. They were always really honest. And so then once they gave me the feedback, I would send it off to Guilford. So I just really wrote. I had this pace that I wrote at, and it was really gratifying. In fact, it went so fast that my editors had to apologize. They're like, "Listen, we didn't think we were getting a chapter from you until like." The following October, like they didn't even have me on the boards. So everybody at Guilford started pushing the book forward in production. And so they would like give me feedback faster. And so when I was actually visiting my niece in and my with my older brother down in New Orleans. And on that Friday, they sent me what are called the copy edits, which are like these very technical edits that they give you. They said, listen, we need it back in a month. It's really important. You can't make any changes after this. I'm like, okay, cool. So Sunday, I landed in Nashville, and I sent them all of the copy edits back with a note saying, please excuse the delay, which was super obnoxious. And it was just sort of that speed of it. So it's been like really, and then when I saw the what it looked like when it went from like just a Word document to like what you saw, it
Yeah.
was I was I mean, when I tell you I was bawling, like when I opened it up and I saw what it looked, because they didn't show me, oh, we could do this. They literally just turned it into the book and then sent it to me. I was bawling and I just started sending these like really long emails to Gil to like the editor and just thanking her. Like it just was so moving. And then to see you get a hold of it and other people to get a hold of it, it's just wild. Yeah.
Well, I remember because like for anyone watching, Aaron let me in on it early because I got to endorse it. So I read like the PDF version of it first, and I had like I don't know if I'd said it like at this time or like before it came out. It was somewhere before it got published that I had told someone like in our community, oh, this book is going to be great. Like, I can't wait for everyone to read this. And they were like, oh my God, will it be an audiobook? And I was like, I will ask. I don't know if I ever did ask, but like there was a lot of like interest, even just in our little like Instagram community from people like me with lived experience who were like, I could really use this book. Like, this is absolutely right up my alley. People who just love to nerd out about psychology in general and like other advocates. So I have it right here.
Oh, you
Oh,
do?
you
Yeah.
can't see it because it's a
I always
blur,
have a
but like
copy of it.
mine's all blurred out. But yeah, it's like literally right here because I'm sitting at my little work desk where I have like all my little notes and everything, little sticky notes for
Yeah.
every occasion. And of course, it's
Yeah.
sitting right there. I've got Cody's book too, because I do my book reviews right here. I've got Cody's book.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that
yeah,
book.
that was a really good book.
So
Yeah, no,
good.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
I benefited a lot from it because I just started working. This is like a total aside, but Cody also writes really good books. So, what was your first book?
So the first book that I was involved with was the original manual teaching people how to do recovery-oriented cognitive therapy. And so that was sort of a longer haul of a book because, it was like herding cats. I think there were like 5 authors on there, but it included
Wow.
Dr. Beck was the first author. And so getting to work on that book was really instructive. And so that was exciting to have that book. And I'm really excited because one of the co-authors from the original book, a guy named Dimitri Perivoliotis, who's out of San Diego, um, he and I are doing the new a follow-up to the manual called the Practical Guide to Recovery-Oriented CBT for Psychosis. And so it really is a very nuts and bolts, like how to do the treatment. And it was funny because when he and I decided to got the book and we're talking about it, and I said, listen, I know you. And so Dimitri actually endorsed the book also, Living Well with Psychosis. I said, listen, it's not going to be another Living Well with Psychosis. It's going to be a serious book that we're going to write about how to do the therapy. And so I started writing away. And sure enough, it is like a therapist's version of living. It sounds just like it's very approachable, and I kind of like write it in the um I don't want to say casual way, but because there's parts where we talk really specifically about what you have to do. But the same is true for Living Well with Psychosis. But it very much has that vibe of Living Well with Psychosis. This sort of playfulness, a lot of
I loved that.
a lot of, yeah. So
Well, it's like a very scary like concept brought to you by your best friend is like kind of how it reads to me. It's like, okay, recovering from psychosis is this really scary, serious, dark undertaking, but we're going to talk about ice cream like 8 times in the book.
I know. That's been the other funny part about it is so many people who go, uh, they'll bring something up and I'll be like, wait, did I talk about it's always those things.
You talked about ice cream in like every single chapter.
I really love ice cream. I really
I
love
do
ice cream.
too.
I really do. Yeah, yeah. So, um, so the new book has been really exciting, and it's funny. I was telling you right before I logged in, we're working on it, and that's going really quickly. So we're hoping that by the summer, The practical guide it'll be sort of on Amazon, and then we're hoping that by November it will actually be in people's hands, which will be really exciting because then, providers um, will just have like a very step-by-step, like how to actually engage somebody in this way, which would be really exciting.
I'll have to get my psych nurse Nikki a copy.
Oh,
She already got a copy. When I told her about living well with psychosis, she ordered a copy off Amazon right in front of me.
oh, excellent. Well, I hope I'll be curious your thoughts
Got a
if
fan.
yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about CTR. Like, how did that come to be in existence? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah. So one of the things, so Aaron Beck, who is the father of cognitive therapy, right? Um, he he actually the first paper he ever wrote, and I could send this to you because I think you'd find it pretty cool to read, was a case study of successfully treating somebody who had what people refer to as a delusion of borrowed guilt, right? And so that was in 1952. He wrote the first successful case study of treating a person with psychotherapy for a delusion. And so Beck went and did a whole bunch of other stuff throughout his life, right? So he did like depression, blah, 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 anxiety disorders, blah, blah, blah. Like, so he kind of did a lot, Aaron Beck. And then in his 80s, he came back around and wanted to um, return back to schizophrenia, and he was sort of interested. He saw that across the pond in the United Kingdom, they were doing work applying his theory of anxiety disorders to psychosis, the hallucinations and delusions. And so he wanted to return back. And what people said is, listen, what do you do with these individuals who are around the borders of your community mental health places and just don't really move? Like if they all stood up at once, like the walls would fall in. And what people were describing was the people who had problems with motivation and problems with connection, right? Those what we refer to as the negative symptoms of schizophrenia. And so those go by the words like avolition, asociality, alosia, those all the Becky used to go, all the A's. And I'm like, so that was the way he would describe it. I guess that's as he was a psychiatrist, and that's as a psychiatrist how you'd remember it. And so he did what he did with every other thing that he tackled. He interviewed and talked to a lot of people. And there was a psychiatrist named Neil Rector who thought that the negative symptoms were perfectionism that had gone to an extreme. And so when Beck started having his people interview folks, he found that they weren't perfectionistic, but what is they found that they had been defeated. And so he identified a series of beliefs about why try it's not going to work out anyway, a little mistake is as bad as a complete catastrophe, those types of beliefs. That there were also, along with asociality, that desire to stop connecting with people. Um, the that they had a whole set of beliefs about it's not being worth the energy doing it. And there was once you identify a series of these lessons that people learn, what we call beliefs that drive these things, well, now you have a target for cognitive therapy, right? So if it's just that somebody's brain is hosed, right, and is broken, and that the neurons don't work, well, you can't talk a neuron into working. But if you have a belief that you can target, well, that you can sort of evaluate, is it the most helpful thought? Is it the most accurate thought? And then ultimately start doing stuff to test those ideas out. And so that was the birthing of recovery-oriented cognitive therapy. So Beck leads um, a clinical trial that is targeting and putting first or privileging those negative symptoms. So he isn't instead going, well, we got to get rid of the hallucinations and delusions. He actually targeted the negative symptoms. And what they found is as they targeted the negative symptoms, the positive symptoms, the hallucinations and delusions actually got better. And people started doing it in their
Nice.
life. Right. And so I came in at the end of that, and I was like one of the last therapists onto the clinical trial. And then people wanted to know, okay, well, if we can help people, how do we start? Can you train people? And I was the person who definitely came in and took my mind on how to formalize the treatment. And we started to disseminate it and sort of teach people all across Georgia, in New Jersey, in Pennsylvania. And it really is this treatment that instead of focusing in on hunting out every problem, it's really identifying where do you want to be going in your life? What do you want to be doing? And then ultimately anything that gets in the way, we're going to target. And so we don't necessarily have to get rid of somebody's hallucinations if the hallucinations aren't getting in the way of you living your life. You
Yeah.
don't have to deal with a threat belief, or what people refer to as a persecutory delusion, if it's not getting in the way of your life. For some people, they absolutely get in the way of your life, right? If I want to go back to work, so I can go on a vacation and I can, spend time with my son. Um, it might be really hard this if every time I walk out the door, the voices tell me you're going to get killed,
Mhm.
or you're stupid and nobody wants you to leave. Well, that's going to be an obstacle. Um, on the flip side, there are people where once they started getting back into their life, they just had less life space for all of those voices and the stuff in your brain. And there were like a whole series of cases where we never sat down and really focused in on the voices or focused in on the delusion. And they just sort of shrunk. They just had less time. I know in like some of our conversations, you said that like when you're working, you don't have time for any of the stuff,
Yeah.
in your brain. You're like, I'm too busy trying to be like, okay, wait, was that Munster cheese or was that Swiss cheese, right? And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yep.
um, and so um, that was sort of the birthplace of CTR. And then really the nice part of it is we can also fit in any of the other really effective interventions. Um, if I have a threat belief, right, this belief, like a persecutory delusion, what people refer to as a persecutory delusion, but better way to think about it is a threat belief. um, I can slot in the work from Oxford University, and we could really focus in on the what's called the Feeling Safe program. But it's a really effective treatment. So, like, if I have PTSD, I can slot in a good PTSD treatment to help somebody move forward along the way. So that's sort of the birthplace and the origin story of CTR.
I love that that really works on the negative symptoms. I think people are like so much more focused, or at least like their gaze falls on positive symptoms. Like when they think of psychosis, it's like people initially think of the hallucinations, delusions, they think of like all of the flashy stuff,
Mhm.
and it's like you can take that away and you'll still have negative symptoms. And to like to approach it that way, to like start with the negative symptoms, I mean, that I think for me, honestly, that's probably way more effective, especially because like I'll have psychotic depression where like it is like trying to climb Mount Everest to get out of bed, like on top of having symptoms. And, those negative symptoms coming out of psychosis when you get rid of the positive symptoms can be even harder than the positive symptoms alone, you know
Yeah.
like there are times in my life, like now I'm medicated and I've been like intermittently hallucinating here and there, and it is something I can live with. Like I can live with someone calling my name at work and just like trying to ignore that person who's not there.
Yeah.
But it's when I cannot bring myself to get up off the couch and I'm just not even looking at my phone, not at my laptop. I'm just literally sitting there because I can't even move because I'm locked in the avolition. Like that is a lot harder for me, actually. I think because,
Yeah.
also they say that you can't treat it, right? You can't treat negative symptoms with medication.
So there are no medications currently that, yes, so that is accurate. So there are no medications currently that treat it. And many of the medications can like exacerbate them, make them worse, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about the negative symptoms as this, um, it's sort of like a slowing and moving back. Listen, this is not me being anti-medicine. This is just me being pro-reality, right? That's a weird way of saying it, but like, the reality is like the medicines slow people down. They make them a little bit less, have a little bit less energy. Well, if I have the thought I can't do things till I get the energy, and the medicine is actually making the energy less. There's a line in the musical Man of La Mancha that says whether the stone hits the pitcher or the pitcher hits the stone, it's bad news for the pitcher. So whether I have low energy um, uh, because of avolition, or whether I have low energy or the low energy comes because of the medicine, at the end of the day, I have lower energy and I'm not moving forward. right? And so ultimately, I end up in the same spot. And so um, I think that's sort of a real critical piece. One of the things that's really moved me, and what you just said moves me, and I've seen other advocates talk about it as well. Is one, so many people will talk openly, and I'm not like talking out of class, like they have videos about this, where they talk about, yeah, I'll get on here and I'll talk to you about my hallucinations, or I'll talk to you about the delusion that I had. And they feel very comfortable talking about the positive symptoms. But there's this level of shame and embarrassment about experiencing the negative symptoms, right? And I think I've seen you talk about it openly. I saw Cody talk about it, or Cody Green
Oh
talk about
yeah.
it. And it really, when I teach now, I talk about those videos also, because people inherently feel like there's something bad and broken about them, about the negative symptoms. The positive symptoms, they feel like, okay, it's fine. Um, there's also like really good research now that the negative symptoms at time of discharge from hospital, they predict going back into the hospital more than hallucinations and delusions at discharge, and more than
Wow.
the cognitive problems, the neurocognitive deficits. The negative symptoms create this really um, fertile bed on which all other symptoms can get worse. And I think you described it really well. Like, I can get rid of all my hallucinations and delusions, but then I'm not moving. Well, if I'm not
Yep.
moving, if I'm isolating and I'm not doing stuff, that's the recipe for hallucinations and delusions to get their grip back again and get forward. And so
Yeah.
I think that it's a powerful target. And you're right. So many people talk about being, I'm lazy, I'm depressed, my brain's broken. I used to get up and be able to do stuff, and now my brain's just garbage. And it's so it's so heart-wrenching to hear people see themselves as broken, but these symptoms have been observed for so long.
Yeah, and honestly, it when I read your book, when I learned about CPR, it was like revolutionary to me that you could even suggest that there was something you could do about it. Because I'd always felt like, oh, there's nothing you can do about negative symptoms.
Mm.
It is what it is. Like I didn't I guess for some reason I thought, okay, well, it can't be treated by medication, so it must be permanent. It must be something you can't get rid of. It must be something that'll never improve. And I
Yeah.
have gotten through it. I've gotten to the other side where I don't really have negative symptoms anymore. And I just kind of chalked that up to being in remission long enough that it disappeared on its own. Like, I didn't really consider that I had put in effort to, like, move into sober living, and then, try to volunteer once I was in sober living, and then graduate from volunteering to getting a job. Like, I didn't see the effort that I had put in, and how, oh my gosh, my mind changed along with me. What? Like, it seriously to me felt like doomed. Like, if you have negative symptoms, you're just doomed to always struggle. Like, that's how I felt. I always felt, because we were just talking before we started recording about the recovered recovery
Yeah.
language, about how, like, with my fiance had said, if you have your pancreas taken out, you can recover from the surgery or something like that, but you'll never fully, your body will never be the same, right?
Yeah.
And like, you've recovered from the surgery, but you'll need insulin the rest of your life. And I kind of felt that way about psychosis, that, like, it's over, but I'll always carry this with me. Like, I'll never fully be, like, better. I feel a lot better though. I just feel that it's something I improve upon every day. Because
Yeah.
if I ever, like, slide back taking care of myself, I know exactly where that takes me. And
Yeah.
usually psychosis.
And I think in a lot of your videos I've been watching recently is that on some level, not on some level, on a very clear level, you have this systematic way that you've been working on it, right? So you talk about the idea of the book club, right? So
Book club. Yeah.
as you keep reading, it really is um, this concrete way of going, oh, you see like the idea of like, well, why try things don't work out anyway? Well, you're like, well, I have five, I've read 5 books and I got through them
Yeah.
and I understand them and I enjoyed them. Getting back to work, right? Is that you're just systematically doing these things, but you're in when that happens, you're sort of shifting um uh the way information flows for you, right? Because I think you were like, and I think we've talked, I think I've also seen on your channel, we were like, I never thought I'd be back to working full time and doing this stuff. And now all of a
Oh
sudden you're like,
yeah.
now you're like, oh, I work and I do all this stuff. So that ultimately is sort of that learning through experience that you get to do, which is so powerful. So,
It was such a long like process of like recovering enough from psychosis to be able to do things again that I can see where I might have thought it would never happen,
mhm.
but it just took a long time. Like I
Yeah.
I genuinely didn't think I'd ever work again. I was told I would never work again. And I've been at my job like 3 or 4 months now,
Wow.
and it's been possible, like even though there've been, like when I first started I was having some hallucinations. Couple months there I was okay, had a few recently, and it's really just down to, okay, I'm stressed, and I know that I'm stressed, and I know that what happens when I'm stressed is I hallucinate.
Mhm.
And so, would it be preferable to not hallucinate at all? Yeah. But is it a really small price to pay for having the life I have today? Like now that I know how to manage it, and I know that I
Mhm.
can take time off from work if I need to, if it gets to be a real problem. Like I can like kind of assess my life as I go now and determine,
Yeah.
like, is that a deal breaker, or can we live with a little bit of discomfort to get to the goal we want to achieve, is like kind of where I'm at now. And it's
Yeah.
working.
Yeah. And it also sounds like you've started to look at like, well, why am I having these? What's going on specifically right now that I'm having this
Yeah.
experience? And it's such a powerful way of sort of looking at it, not going at as sort of like I'm either healthy or sick, but going. I mean, I think I use the example in the book, right? Is I have like a bad lower back, like or but I haven't had to go back to the chiropractor in I have no idea, like maybe 15 years or something like that. And the last time
Wow.
I was at the chiropractor, I mean, and it was to the point where like there were times where I'd go and I had to go to the chiropractor 2 times in a day to get adjusted. That's how much excruciating pain I was in. And like
Whoa.
my wife had to drive me. Like it was not like, oh yeah, it's a little sore because I'm getting older. And at the end of the treatment, the guy goes, here, I want to show you some stretches. And he showed me some leg stretches. And I was like, why are you showing me leg stretches? My back is the problem. Then he reminded me that your legs are attached to your back. And I never said I was the smartest guy out there. I just, I talk a lot. And one of the things I've been very religious about these stretches. Like I do them all the time, right? And so, but one of the things I can tell is um I use my back as a sign to let me know what's going on. And so if I all of a sudden wake up and I'm like walking around like an old man because my lower back is bothering me, what I know is I'm like, I'm not doing enough of the stretches or something's going on that my legs are more tense. And it becomes sort of an early warning sign, like a canary in the coal mine. And
Yeah.
it sounds like you do that too with the voices going, oh, something's
Yeah.
going on that the voices are deciding that they need to be present and let me know. So they're a
Yeah.
message to me, if that makes sense.
I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's exactly what it is,
Yeah.
because like usually so successful on medication. I've always been completely asymptomatic on medication until
Yeah.
now. And so when I at first, like, because it started like in July-ish, like in July I was hearing music, and I'd be like, well, that's pretty, but that's annoying. And I kind of asked myself, like, should I be concerned about this? And then I
Hmm.
was like, well, it's not threatening, and it's not constant, and it's something that you can go about your life with it in the background. So I don't really feel like I should be all that concerned. Because if it
Yeah.
was if it was more like violent or scary like it normally is for me, then I would be concerned. A little
Right.
bit of music, I can live with that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
then it kind of went away when I adjusted, and that was because I had just started the job. And then things at work have been pretty stressful lately. Everybody's been really stressful, or everybody's been really stressed. And it kind of started being like voices like this time. And again, I was like, is it scary? Is it
Yeah.
threatening? Can I ignore it?
Yeah.
And I've just sort of realized like if I stop and check in and ask myself those questions, like not only can I figure out why it's happening and it's always down to stress, but I can also determine if it's something I actually need to go get help for, or can I just
Right.
live with it? Because I've been to the psych ward 13 times. I don't need any more reasons to go to the psych ward. And if it's
Yeah. Yeah.
something that is genuinely like a threat to me, like that might be a
Mhm.
reason to like take time off work. But I don't
Yeah.
have to like put down my entire life anymore for psychosis. Like I've learned how to live with my symptoms without having it be like the end of the world anymore,
Yeah.
which is cool because I never could have said that before.
That's so
So that
cool.
feels
That's
that feels like
yeah.
pretty big step up for me there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I even wonder if, let's say the voices start saying something scary, it might be a sign for you, just letting you know, like, where's your mind at, right?
Yep.
Um, it really kind of, one of the things I always find that's really interesting is the voices are oftentimes this sort of like royal road for us to understand, like, how are we feeling, right? There's a way in which they reflect kind of like where our headspace is at. And when we do that, when we I don't want to say like listen to them like in a bad way, but like when we respect the fact that they're trying that there may be a message they're trying to give you, um, there's a way that you can use it, right? Going like, oh, I am feeling really like you said, overwhelmed and hopeless right now. Well, what can I
Mm-hmm.
do to make myself that's the time that I'm going to reach out to people. That's the way I'm going to sort of figure why am I not focusing in on what's going well, right? How do I respond differently? Because they may just be a really good sign for what's going on for us personally at the time. And so, but it's such a cool, yeah, it's so cool to hear. I actually wonder if when I met you in Seattle, if you would have thought, if you would have said to me like, yeah, there could be a time that I'm working a full-time job and if I heard a voice, I'd be like, what the heck's that about? Let me think, right?
I never in a million years would have thought I'd even like say two words out of that sentence. Like job, what job? No, because it's interesting because the Beckfest was 2000. What was that? That was like a year and a half ago. Was that a year?
Yeah.
That was a year ago. I know it was over a year ago because my hair was green. um, but like that was a time where I was like getting to be really involved in like the recovery community and just
Mhm.
starting to have some more independence in my life. But oh my gosh, like it's been wild. Like I started making videos about 3 years ago. And at
Wow.
that time, when I started making videos, I was in the process of getting a service dog
Mm.
and I had a trainer. I was meeting with her regularly. We were like looking for a dog together. And my fiance lost his job, so we couldn't afford to follow through with that. And I never did end up getting the service dog. And it
Mm.
turned out to be fortunate because I kind of graduated past that like level of care that I needed, which I think should
Yeah.
be the goal. Like I think a lot of people think the dog is the goal, but being well enough that you don't need that level of support is the goal. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
but like my videos had started being like, oh my God, I have agoraphobia and I can't leave the house without my fiance. Like when he's at work, I'm just homebound because I can't even go to the mailbox.
Oh,
And
wow.
to now being like, I don't need a service dog. I've got a job and I've got, like stuff going on and
Yeah.
whatever. Like been like really crazy past 3 years to go from that to like where I am today that I work 40 hours a week and
Yeah.
I'm not afraid of my hallucinations today.
Yeah.
So, and I never could have believed I'd ever not be afraid of them too. But the music though, the music is really good. Like the music I hallucinate is really, really, really good, and I don't know what it is. is. And I wish I could look it up on Spotify, but I can't. And it's like the one
Like put
thing
your
that
phone up to your
like
ear and go
bothers
like,
me.
you put your phone up
And
to your
it's
ear
like
and be like, hey Shazam, what's this song?
Shazam my brain.
You know, I remember this was like years and years and years ago. I was consulting on a case and somebody goes like, "Yeah, this person has like hallucinations." I go, "Okay, great. Like what are they hearing?" They're like, "They're hearing music." I go, "Okay." I'm like, "Is it like bad music?" And they're like, "No." But the person's like freaked out because you're not supposed to hear music. And I said, "Says who?" They're like, "No, no, no." They're like, "You're not supposed to." I'm like, "Right, where did you get that from?" Like, listen, if it turns to death metal and she's like, a devout Christian, like then let's deal with it. But like if she likes the music and she can live her life, who cares? And that's when I kind of provided people with like what we know is like 1% of the population has schizophrenia. 6 to 10% of the population hear voices on a regular basis, have no diagnosis whatsoever. They're butchers, bakers, candlestick makers. They walk through the world. Um, the voices aren't necessarily kind. The voices aren't always so it's like, oh well, they're really nice voices. Nope, some of them can be really horrible, violent, grotesque, unkind, abusive. Usually the idea is that they believe that they have a control over the voice, right? So they can sort of shift their attention to do that. And if you look at like what percentage of people have ever heard a voice, that number jumps up to 60 to 80% of people.
Wow.
And so voice hearing is uh and I always say, well, what do you think happened to the other 20% of the people? And I always say like they lied, right? But and then somebody once said, or they didn't interpret it as a voice. I go,
Probably, yeah.
I mean, so they think of it as like, a message from God or, whatever, or like a brain fart or whatever.
It can also just be easy to be like, sorry, what did you say?
Right,
Oh, never
exactly.
mind. Like,
Exactly, right. Yeah. And so, but like I think when we pathologize things so quickly, this person was like in services for like schizophrenia. And I'm like, I don't think this person's having I mean, I think, and again, this person was living the life that they wanted to lead. And I'm like, in the DSM, there's every diagnosis has um, a final criterion, which is it needs to disrupt, in order to be diagnosed with any mental illness, you need to have a disruption to recreation, social, occupational, educational, right? You have to have a disruption to one or more of those areas. And so if you're really not having any disruption anymore, you technically don't meet the criteria for the diagnosis, right? Even I could have all of the symptoms, but if it's not impairing my ability to live, I don't have, and that's not me trying to take away people's diagnoses. It's sitting here going like, I think it's just this sign that there really is hope. Like, um, I meet with family members or I meet with individuals like right at the beginning of their journey into the rodeo. And I'm like, all that crap you heard at like an ER or from like a doctor who said, stick your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye. Like, it's not true. Like, it's just not, none of the research bears that out. And I know that that sounds stupid coming out of my mouth right now, but like, you're an example of one. You're an N of one. I have a larger N, right? Meaning like number of people who I've seen. And I see people get better. People who are like, I'll never get better in a million years. I was like, great. We don't know if that's true or not, but now let's start walking.
hmm yeah. Well, I honestly like, I think it's like with what I was saying, where I never would have thought it would be possible to get to this point, but it's honestly just because it took so long. Like,
Mhm. Yeah.
if you want to be like doubting and if you want to be brooding about it, but you keep taking that next step
Mhm.
forward, like it took me like over a decade, but I got here, and I had some relapses in that time. Like I think I've had a couple episodes since the last, like the first really, really bad one was like 2014 or
Mm.
15. So about like 10 years later, after a couple relapses from that one. And and now my life today, like you would never know that I'd had any mental illness at all.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good at hiding it.
I mean, my experience of whenever we talk is that you're just engaged in your life is, I mean, not to like take away from the joke, but like you filled your life with other with things that are really important, right?
Yeah.
There's I mean, it's no longer with us. Not Nat Con.
NaNoWriMo.
NaNoWriMo, please bring it back. And work and art and creating and communicating and all of these things. And when we fill our life space with these things, there's only so many hours in a day. And so if you fill them, and not about distracting or like workaholicing or anything, not in like an addictive way, but just things that really are valuable to you, and like your videos and your communication and your TikToks and all of those, you can see how much you value communicating and educating and lifting other people up. And when I see the pictures of you at work and stuff like that, you just love connecting with people. I mean, I think that's why you and I got along so well. It's like I like talking to people, and you like talking to people.
I like talking to people.
I
I
like
love
connecting with people,
people.
right? And so you fill with that, and I know there's sort of like other things. There's other things in your life that you just love filling it with. Well, if you fill so much of your life with this stuff, something's got to go. And I think this absorption into this other thing, it is ironic that one of the things you fill it with is education about psychosis, but that ultimately leaves less time
But
for
then there's less
torture.
time to be worried about being in psychosis. Yeah.
Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
which I think is such a beautiful thing. I think it's the other reason why we need to, it's so important that we, as a society, invest in supporting individuals and having really good science-based approaches, right? Because, you know, there's so many people who don't have access to good treatment, and whether it's medicine but also psychotherapy, right? And I mean, I always think about it from a humanistic standpoint, right? Is that people's, you know their lives are sort of can be robbed from them, right? This is time that is lost. But I also, I always used to argue, I used to say like I could speak Democrat and Republican, right? Like, so I can speak to the money part of it. Like, it's not a wise financial investment to not um fund high level treatment, right?
Mhm.
And so because ultimately individuals end up not, like you could just talk about it financially. There's like a bunch of different explanations why financially it makes no sense. But at the end of the day, all of the money that goes toward bad treatment means that that individual is not moving forward in their life, right? And that person could be a communicator. It could be a friend. It could be any number of things. And so I just think
Mhm.
it's so, I always think about like these are people's um, daughters or sons, their brothers and sisters, their mothers or fathers, like, it's like why we would not want to invest in helping people get back to their life is just, I just don't get it, right? I just think it's so stupid from every angle.
Yeah, I mean, I think people probably want me, you know, healthy and contributing to the workforce more than they want me sitting on the couch all the time. Like
Right.
it's not just like for the benefit of me, like it benefits other people to be a part of a community. We
Hmm.
don't ever want someone in our community to fall back and leave the
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And for me, recovery is very community oriented. So I can absolutely like understand your thinking of like, we wouldn't want to like, why would you think that would benefit anyone, right?
Yeah. Exactly. There's a great YouTube video. It's a TED Talk. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's essentially, I think it's called like how we've gotten everything about addiction wrong. And his argument is that the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. Um,
I
have
want
you
to see
ever have
that.
you if you haven't seen it, I'll send it to you. It's such a powerful. I mean, it's based off of the science, like really good science. But the way you said it, it's about
Well, it
community.
is. It
Yeah.
is. I mean, like it's like if you think of the way I think of the way I was helped out of psychosis it's like that line of people when there's a fire and they pass the bucket of water all the way down the line, and then one
Yeah.
bucket after another puts out the fire. Like that's kind of what it took for me to come out of recover, like to recover from psychosis, was like a huge community effort. There were a lot of people looking for after me in a lot of different ways. You know, I had my caregivers, my mom and my sister as my caregivers. And I had friends who would pretty much drag me out of bed to go play frisbee when I didn't want anything more to do than be depressed in bed. You know, it's like it's more valuable to have each person a part of the community than it is
Mhm.
to just let them rot, which is what I wanted. I just wanted to like be left to die because it's depressing, and it's, you
Yeah.
know, and especially when you have the A's, and you don't have it within yourself to motivate yourself to do the first thing. Getting a friend, my friend Jake, for instance, who would like knock, 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 hey, we're going, get out, we're going on a ride, let's go. And then just take our bikes out somewhere, and I'd be pedaling along like, I don't want to do this. Oh, what a beautiful day. I don't want to do this. Like it gets the ball in motion. Like you never want to give up on the other people in the community.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. That's so beautifully said. Yeah.
My friend Jake, he is very responsible for busting through the negative symptoms,
Yeah.
because after one of my episodes, he was running like a clean and sober living house, and I was living there, and every flippin' day he'd be knocking on my door trying to come get me to do something. Like, hey, we're going on the ferry. We're gonna go to Port Townsend, like whatever. So, you know, it's not something I could have done by myself, right? So,
Yeah. Actually, it's so funny. People like Jake are where we really sort of started looking at the how do we break through and how do we get people going. And it literally is that stuff of just sort of knocking on the door, being like, "I'm going for a ride, let's go," and then you just
you
start
have
walking,
no
right?
choice.
You know, and so or like I'll oftentimes have a frisbee and I'll just be like this in session, and then somebody goes, and then we just start like throwing the frisbee back and forth for a while. And so there's things like that, going to get a cup of coffee, those things. But we learned it from people like Jake, who would sort of break in and just sort of knock on the door and go like, "Let's go." Um,
Oh, he was the best at it. He didn't even know what the hell I was
yeah,
going through. He just recognized that I needed to get out of bed.
yeah, absolutely, yeah,
So, do you want to talk about our channels, our videos?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, obviously, I make videos because you're in my video.
yes, very much so.
For everyone who's watching, Aaron actually has a YouTube channel himself. Really great videos over there that you can check out.
Yep.
Where can people find you, first of all?
Sure. I'm at Recover with CBT. So that's Recover with CBT. And so I have a number of different videos. It's actually, I just got my 8-year anniversary because I posted a video from the very first video was a video of me at NAMI, National Convention, National Alliance for Mental Illness, National Convention, just talking about how nobody would be motivated based off of the way we currently treat people in inpatient hospitals. And I kind of like talked through this whole situation. I went, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll put it on YouTube. So I put it on YouTube. And then when the pandemic started, I supervised a bunch of first episode psychosis teams. And I realized that these are all road warriors, right? So they go to people's houses to do therapy. Well, the moment pandemic hit, essentially half of their week evaporated because they weren't driving around anymore. And I knew that that could be really distressing for people. And I said, well, I started doing webinars on Mondays and Fridays, and I would just film them on Zoom, which we're on right now. And I started posting them. I would like edit them a little bit and I would post them. And it's like every Monday and Friday during the pandemic. And so people would start watching these webinars and they were just free. They were up there, free. And then I started realizing after like the webinars were done, people would usually watch for about like 15 minutes and then would start to trail off, right? Because they're like 50-minute webinars and they're on all kinds of topics, negative symptoms, hallucinations, go ahead and check them out. They're a little old. You can see me with a beard, which is kind of funny. Um, and then I started to um, realized that like, well, if people are only holding on for 15 minutes, what if I made these really quick clinical bites? And so then I started doing these videos really for therapists who were really busy, but you could sort of log in, learn a topic in 7 to 15 minutes, and that was it. And then when the book came out, I decided to like I started like looking at a couple more videos on like how to do YouTube. And so I now have a whole set of videos that are much more YouTubey, right? And so they're just quick things you can pick up on, like the stuff you were talking about with uh, getting up and being active. So there's a whole bunch of stuff about activity scheduling and talking about symptoms, like talking about a new video just went up about grandiose delusions, um, and just little quick things that you can pick up and just to get the information out there. Because I think if we can, if you can watch one goofy YouTube video and try it out and feel a little bit better, maybe it creates a little bit of hope to say, oh, well, maybe there's other things I can do to feel better. And so there's videos for straight to individuals. There's videos for, um, uh, straight for individuals, videos for family members, videos for providers, just sort of more general videos. So those are sort of the three buckets that the videos fall into. And so it's been fun. I always tell you guys, the advocates, I'm like, you guys are amazing. I'm like, it's exhausting to do that stuff. So I've
Yeah,
got
but
YouTube on Instagram. Those are kind of the two big platforms. I put stuff up on TikTok also.
your videos though, they're really, really good. Mine are
Thank
just
you.
kind of slapped together. Like I just film a little chunk at a time and then just stitch them into one long thing. And then yours have like these really cool edits and different like angles and stuff going on. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
probably takes you like my if I make like a 20-minute video and I spend all this time editing it and you make a 5-minute video, we spend like probably the same amount of time editing.
I do a lot of that stuff. I think that's just I have like a very theatrical background, so I think there's a part of that that I enjoy making something visually interesting, and so it's pretty fun. And trying to keep people engaged. So like I said, now that I've kind of upped my editing stuff, so you're seeing all of the everything fly in, and I like to play with my toys. So that's
Yeah,
it.
it's cool stuff. Like
Thank
it.
you.
Well, I'm not sure I know where to go from here. I don't know how to wrap this up.
Yeah. Um, do you just want to do like a call to action outro?
Uh, how will we do where for anyone watching, this is my first time using Zoom. So there's a stop recording. Okay, what should we say?
I mean, you could say, if you like this, leave a I don't know, the
Oh,
normal.
yeah.
Yeah.
All
If you
right.
like this, leave a comment.
Well,
You follow Aaron at Recover with CBT, get Living Well with Psychosis, and then we'll see you next month when I talk to, if
be
you know.
sure to get a copy of Mine's Blurry, but Living Well with Psychosis. You can find it at itsguilford.com, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
then
Anywhere you buy
be
books.
sure to follow Aaron at Recover with CBT on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. Facebook. Yeah, you can find me. I think it's under Dr. Aaron Brinen on Facebook. So,
Mhm. And then you can subscribe to me. You can like this video and comment. Let us know how we did on this first episode.
yep.
If you'd like to see more of Aaron, if you want him back on the channel. And this is a very experimental episode, so I think we're doing the best between the two of us for not knowing how this is going, I guess. So I think that's about it, right? All
Pretty
right.
fun. Thank you
All
for
right
having me.
then. Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
Aaron. Bye,
Yeah.
everyone.
Bye.